This was, at the end of the day, once we finally got all the detailed business processes, all the way down to what we would call agent procedures or system procedures, which was our level 5 processes. It was used in 3 places. One, when we were actually getting to the final readiness for deployment, we had all the test cases developed right off of that level 5 process. We also had all of our training developed by the training team right off of those processes. And we are also providing the region business processes to we're providing the processes to the region teams. Which actually gets me to another feature of 6.0, which is the, what is it called? It's the key attributes, the dimensions. And I can see a real value in here because we want to be delivering these processes in multi-languages. We support 31 languages, and so we need to have an ability to support multiple languages, and I think the dimension capability is going to enable that. There's a piece that I could get to about 6.0, but I will certainly talk about it because there's something about, and this gets into the nuances of pro forma, about the activity name is a key field. This is my best description of it. And if you go into another language, that no longer can be valid. I don't know if that makes sense. So, this is what we did. We did have the inventory of level 3, and this is only level 3 to give you an idea of the magnitude of change. And I can tell you that internally we know what those numbers are, but this is to scale in terms of the magnitude of simplification that we've achieved across the world in the way that the customers will be experiencing HP. The one thing that we have made sure of is that we know that there are certain legal and cultural requirements, and we built that into these processes, that if there is a regional legal or cultural requirement that we need to make sure we deal with, we did build that into the processes. And so we have some alternative paths that are really based on that kind of a thing. So that is what we achieved in terms of process reduction. And this is, I actually had a good conversation for a few minutes. This is really where the savings are. And when we say that we save tens of millions of dollars, it's not we save tens of millions of dollars in the way we did processes. It's really about improving the speed at which we deployed. And we had an external assessment done that said by doing these, what we call best practices, which is significant sponsor support and backing. I mean, this is motherhood and apple pie. If you don't have a sponsor, you might as well pack it in. And I will tell you that the sponsor was critical and understood the value of a process perspective. Without that sponsorship, we would not have been able to get what we got. And the other thing is we had the use of walkthrough for rapid learning and rapid rate of innovation. One of the things that I've heard today is that the process is objective. And what we ended up doing is we would walk through the process, and we would develop the process, and we would develop it with global teams. And we would develop level 4 with global teams. We just finished an exercise in one of the enabling processes to develop it with a global team. And in a 1-week period, we basically developed a couple of key enabling processes. And the fact that we're using pro forma helps us keep this tied together. And the other thing is that we would actually walk through practice sessions where we would follow the process and make sure that what we expected the customer experience to be was met. And we did that many, many times. So we had multiple iterations. And by having the process documentation and walking through that over and over, it really created, not only knowing that we had a solution that was solid, but it also created that global buy-in that said, when the people in Asia would say, do I know what my process is? They had participated in the development of and the validation of those processes and the tools that we were using for that. And that was significant. The other thing that we've done deployment of systems for consumer support, and we've actually had some situations where we started deploying and we've actually had to back up. And this one we have not. We are actually continuing to move forward, and we are actually We're not getting any negative comments from the people that are actually following this or using this capability. And that's an unheard of situation from our prior experiences. So that was really the key here. And again, the process, pro forma is really an enabler for this kind of a thing. And then finally, it was also the method to maintain customer focus and control our change. So because we had our processes documented and we had the customer requirements associated to the processes, we knew when we did something that we were still customer focused and that we were not getting into some internal sub-optimization. So we started, again, from the customer requirements, and we made those available, because you can associate requirements to processes. We made those available, and we also are using it to control change. Again, a process is a rather objective thing. You are either doing it or you're not doing it, and if you change it, it's very obvious what the change has been. So that's basically it, and you can see here, just to explain this curve, over the years, we have savings. If we had not done the best practices, we would have achieved it at this level of getting the savings. And we see that with acceleration, this line could have gone down here, that we actually deployed sooner than if we had not been using these best practices. I can't specifically allocate how much the pro forma perspective saved us, because you really have to have all of these. I don't think you could do them without all of them. And so you can't really separate, because there's such a combinatorial effect of all these factors to create the benefit that we saw here. And this assessment was actually done by an independent party to identify what's the value. And that is all I have for today.
All right, let's see if we have any happy questions.
Only happy path questions.
Does anyone have a question? Yes.
Gloria Smith with Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Was your objective when you started this just to optimize your processes and to standardize them, or were you also doing this for the purpose of some additional systems development to support your customer service?
Yeah, so it was a combination. The primary objective is really to transform and globalize our processes. But we saw there was from a competitive position standpoint, what we had, because we had 132 countries and all sorts of systems over 132 countries, our ability to be responsive to the competitive environment was really restricted, because we'd say, okay, let's go do this. And then you have to deploy that, whatever that improvement is, across over 200 systems. And so we see that we are creating a single global system from a tool perspective that it will give us a more responsive capability to competitive situations. So our real driver was exactly that we needed to have an ability to be more competitive and to be able to innovate more rapidly globally. And that was one of the key drivers. Now, from a financial return perspective, we really said the handling time with customers is going to go down, and our ability to solve problems first time somebody calls will get better, and our ability to correctly solve a customer's problem will be better. So those were the key at the value chain level. That's what it drove to. But at the strategic level, it was really about greater competitive ability to change.
Are you using these process models now for any type of BPM and actual business monitoring and evaluation and then further improvements?
We are not actively using the models. The models identified what were the key performance indicators, and the analytics and reporting capability that we have are using those for the basis of reporting what the system, how the business is performing. If we do any changes to the processes, we will also look and see if we are changing any of the ways that we actually gather the data. And so we review any process change that occurs. We also take a look and say, has any of our system of doing analytics and reporting changed as a result of that process change? Does that answer your question? Or so it's still a valid model, going forward, but it doesn't do any of the direct activity monitoring. There's other systems that actually do that.
Anyone else?
Mark Burry with Wells Fargo out of Minneapolis. You mentioned the tens of millions of dollars of savings. What are some of the characteristics of those savings? It sounds like maybe reduced time on the phone or in the customer interaction. So I assume headcount. But it also sounds like perhaps you might have been able to simplify your systems environments. So could you just run down some of the major categories there?
I can share what I have here. And so the entire program saves even more than that. I'm only talking about the savings that are associated with the fact that we use these best practices, that the way that we did it, which included using provision, actually saved us the tens of millions. And it's basically that we are able to release it sooner because we use these best practices. And I'm really not at liberty to discuss all of the factors that got us to this blue line, which is the cost savings that we're doing. In addition to improving customer satisfaction, there is cost savings in the way that we're actually handling customers.
Anyone else at all? All right, Bill, thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.